أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فإلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع ذكر وخشى الرحمن بالغيب فبشر بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاء المرسلون إذا أرسلنا عليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم ولا يمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يريد الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيه من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كما أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة وحيينا وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملت أيديهم فلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أن حملنا ذرية في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا متاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها مؤردين وإذا قيل لهم انفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو شاء الله وأطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم أزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم عهد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد ضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم ما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن ومن نكس في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه شعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللنا لهم فمنها ركوبهم منها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع مشارب فلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحت كل اسم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطية أقتحتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفئ بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توضئني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاذ متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني باسمك راضيا قانيا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وكفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائه ساطرا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرحت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترت وكم من فاده من البلاء يكلته وكم من إثار وكيته وكم من مكروه دفعته وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرته. اللهم أعظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وكسرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وهبسني النفع بعد أملي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي يا سيدي. فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفي آلي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تؤاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور أتوفا. إلهي ورب من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تدين عدوي فغرني بما أهوى وأسأده على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك. فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذئنا معترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفضح نتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك أدري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني وركة جلدي ودكة عظمي. يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي حبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي يتراك مؤدبي بنورك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انطوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي قاضيا لربوبيتك هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تزيئ من ربيت أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادها وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا وعلى ضمائر هوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشية وعلى جواري سات الأوطان تعبدك طائية وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنة. ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم. يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، ألا أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثوه يسير بقاؤه كثير مدته، فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل بقوء المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي فكيف لي وعن عبدك الضعيف والذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها ضج وأبكي لأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته؟ فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابك، فكيف أصبر على فراقك؟ وهبني صبرت على حر نارك، فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك؟ أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك؟ فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني نعوتك لأضجن إليك بين أهل هذا جيج العاملين ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين ولا أنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية آمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين أتباعها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يذج إليك ذجيجا مؤمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي. فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يؤلكه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أتباعها وأنت تعلم صدقه؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربه؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في إتكه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات، ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين يقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاهدك وقضيت به من إخلال معاندك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأنت جل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يشتعون. إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي هتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمت وكل ذنب أذنبت وكل كبيه أسررت وكل جهل أملته كتمته وأعلنته أغفيته وأظهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإصبعك الكرام القاطبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جواره وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أغفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر هذي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك ركي يا من بيده ناسئتي يا عليما بذري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك مأمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمال عندك مقبولا حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا، وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي، يا من عليه مؤولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، قوي على خدمتك جواره، واشدد على العزيمة جوانه، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك، حتى أسرع إليك في ميادين السابقين، وأسري إليك في الباردين، وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين، وأدنو منك ذنوب المخلصين، وأخافك مخافة الموقنين، وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرد، ومن قادني فكده، واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك، وأقربهم منزلة منك، وأخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك، وجد لي بجودك، وعطف علي بمجدك، واحفظني برحمتك، واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا، وقلبي بحبك متيما، ومن علي بحسن إجابتك، وأكلني أسرتي، واغفر ظلتي، فإنك قضيت على عبادك بإبادتك، وأمرتهم بدعائك، وضمنت لهم الإجابة. فإليك يا رب مسبت وجهي، وإليك يا رب مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي، وبلغني منايا، ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي، واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي. يا سريع الرضا، اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء، فإنك فعال لما تشاء. يا من اسمه دواء، وذكره شفاء، وطاعته غنى، ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء، وسلاحه البكاء. يا سابغ النعم، يا دافع النكام، يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام، يا عالما لا يؤلم، صل على محمد وآل محمد، وافعل بي ما أنت أهله. وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله، وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Sayyid Shabbir Kirmani, respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Al-Fatiha is requested for the Isala Sawab of Marhumeen listed on the screen, and for all Marhumeen, Al-Fatiha. Bismillah. Ayama Yujib is requested for the names listed on the screen and for all those in need here and elsewhere. Let us recite together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mutarra idha da'ah wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibul mutarra idha da'ah wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibul mutarra idha da'ah wa yakshifu as-su'. عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. This Saturday, January 29th at 2:45 p.m., the ladies will celebrate Mother's Day on the wiladat of Bibi Fatima salawatullahi alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, with visiting speaker Sister Shairoz Dala from Toronto. The theme color for the program will be shades of reds, maroon, and pinks. Some highlights of the program include an insight into Hadith Kisa, a talk show by our sisters on relationship of love, as well as a raffle, qasida recitations, and much, much more. A 4-rakat namaz is recommended to be prayed at any time this month for the safeguarding of your family and yourself. This salat will be prayed here at the Masjid after Fajr prayers this Sunday, January 30th, inshallah. For more information on the prayer and how to perform it, please check our latest newsletter. Also, next Wednesday, February 2nd at 8 p.m., we will celebrate the wiladat of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sayyid Shabbir Kirmani will be enlightening us on what is true knowledge. We look forward to seeing you all here, inshallah. We wish you to inform you that we continue to have the official authorization to collect khums dues to be used fully towards the running and maintenance of Masjid al-Hayy. You may fulfill your obligated religious dues by generously supporting Masjid al-Hayy. More details are listed on the screen. For the safety of all congregants at the Masjid, we encourage everyone to adhere with the following guidelines. Maintain social distancing at all times during lectures and while being served, tabarruk or niyaz. Wearing a mask throughout your time at the Masjid, except while eating and drinking in the dining halls. Face masks are available for anyone who forgets to bring one. We also request that any congregant who is not well to please stay at home and follow our program online. We pray for the safety of all our community members and humbly request you to adhere to the above protocols. Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite Sayyid Shabbir to recite tonight's Majlis with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Please recite the Surah Al-Fatiha for the marhumin of the Jafar family, as well as for your marhumin. Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فوضوا أمري إلى الله إن الله بصير بالعباد ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ونعم المولى ونعم النصير. والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل. وقل رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتاب الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. زينوا مجالسكم بالصلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد. My respected elders, brothers and sisters in Iman here in Florida, across the globe, wherever you're hearing my voice, Salamun alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Question: were there Muslims before Islam? We've been discussing the life and times of the Holy Prophet, and we've been saying over the past weeks that the life and times of Rasulullah is actually the story of Islam. That is, if we want to understand the true essence and root of Islam, we must first understand the story as it begins with the life of Rasulullah and his ancestors there before. And then from there, then we can then incorporate the lives of the Imams thereafter. But it is pivotal to truly understand Islam, one must understand the life of Rasulullah and the times of Rasulullah. What led up to his birth? After his birth, what were the circumstances? If we understand what were those things that were happening well before the announcement of prophethood, it clarifies many of the things that happened downstream, so to speak. With that goal and with that intent and all of those points in mind, we now are getting closer and closer to the birth of the Prophet. We have not thus gotten to the birth of the Prophet, but we are very close, and we will get there very soon, inshallah. But these are very important elements that we'll cover tonight, inshallah, with respect to the questions that may come up in the mind. Last week, if you recall, we discussed the elements surrounding the parents of Rasulullah, and this will be pivotal in terms of our future conversation. Tonight we're going to look at what were the circumstances around that area in Mecca and Medina before Rasulullah, and were there people before Rasulullah who were actually Muslims according to Rasulullah? Number one. Number two, with respect to that, how was Medina, the city that we now go to today, where the shrine of the Rasulullah is or the mosque of Rasulullah is, how was that inhabited? What was the history around that? And why is that significantly related to were there Muslims before Rasulullah? You'll understand that in a moment. Number three, what was the relationship between Yemen and Medina? What history is there, and what does that tell us about the prophetic message? And finally, with respect to all of this, who were those people that Rasulullah identified specifically during his lifetime, that there were people, perhaps even before Islam, who were noteworthy, and Rasulullah mentioned them by name? And who are these individuals, and what lessons do they give for you and I? This is our agenda, and of course we'll finish with the masaib of the Ahlul Bayt. This is our agenda for tonight. Wherever you are, here in Florida or across the globe, wherever you're hearing my voice, send a salawat on Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. By this time, alhamdulillah, you are aware of the ancestors of Rasulullah, you understand the lines and everything of that nature, and we'll try to remind from time to time, because it is quite a lot. We got to, and we left off last time talking about the parents of Rasulullah, and we mentioned that there is a key difference here with respect to Rasulullah's parents. That is, according to our belief systems as followers of the Ahlul Bayt, we believe that it's clear and categorical that the parents of Rasulullah were Muslims and believers. They were Hunafa is the particular word. Hunafa being those who are following the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. As I remind you, we discussed that there were certain religions that were there in that area at that time. For example, majority were pagans. They were worshipping idols and idolatry. There were also Jews, there were also Christians, there were also Zoroastrians, and there were also a group called the Hunafa, who were monotheists, who believed in one God, following in the line of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now, based on this, our belief system is clear. Allama Majlis and other scholars say it's clear that Rasulullah, even after his announcement of prophethood, he went to the graves of his parents, he went to his father's grave, and then he went to his mother's grave, which was in Abwa, and he made this clear. From our brothers who are not followers of the Shia school of thought, the school of thought of the Ahlul Bayt, they differ on this, according to this. Now, based on this, we look at the chain of narrators and these issues. Leave that for the side for one moment. This will solve many of the questions that many people ask today about who is going to heaven, who is going to hell, what is the basis, is there any margin of gap in terms of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed? And allow me to explain how that comes about. There's a moment in time where Rasulullah, and I recall, we left off also last time talking about Arafah. That is the field of Arafah. That is where Adam alayhi salam descended. That is where Adam and Hawa met. That is where, for example, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he saw the dream. and numerous other things occurred there. Rasulullah gives his final sermon there. At that point in time, there's that moment where there is a stream that Hazrat Abdullah, the father of Rasulullah, sees, and he drinks from it, and he tells this to his father. And his father says, I saw the same scene, and this is how you were conceived. And then he says that this is a glad tiding. And this is where we left off last time. This is what Allama Majlis says. Now building on that, were there people before Islam who were actually Muslims? This is a good question. That is, what's going to happen to those people who before Rasulullah announced his prophethood, will they go to heaven, will they go to hell, what is their decree? Many people ask this question, and it's a good question. And if you tie this to the parents of Rasulullah, you get even more clarity. Why? Because some people say that Rasulullah's parents were not believers. Well, they say that, for example, Rasulullah's parents, and they give their istidlal, which we don't have time to go into. But if Rasulullah is telling us that there were other people who were Muslims before Islam was announced, what does that tell us about his parents? So then you cannot use the proof then saying that no, they weren't Muslims before that. Keeping all of these things in mind, now I begin. There's a moment in time after Islam comes that Rasulullah is gathered. And when Rasulullah is gathered and all of the Muslim empire is beginning to spread, people were coming in little tribes that were here and there were beginning to come. You know, there were big cities, medium cities, and small tribes at that time. There were Bedouins then and there are Bedouins now. There were sometimes small tribes that lived in the middle of nowhere. All of these, as the word of Islam was getting out, they all began to come towards Rasulullah. One tribe came. When they came towards Rasulullah at that point in time, according to what the narrations say, Rasulullah says, introduce yourself. At that point in time, they say, we are from the tribe of Bakr bin Wa'il. Rasulullah looks at him and says, how is Qais bin Sa'ida? Qais bin Sa'ida? So how do you know the tribe, the small tribe says, how do you know Qais bin Sa'ida? Because we heard about him from our elders. And they told us about him. We had not seen him. Perhaps he would have even died before you were even born, Ya Rasulullah. Rasulullah looks back at him and says, look, it is as if I see Qais bin Sa'ida gets to the festival of Aqaba. At that time, there used to be these festivals where people used to come and do business and they used to do trades and things of this nature. Sometimes they would do an idol, for example. They would do a festival of an idol. This was common in the Roman times, in the Greek times, and many other times. At that point in time, Rasulullah says, it is as if I see Qais bin Sa'ida gathering at the festival of Aqaba. He goes there. When he goes there, he gets to the middle of the market and the festival. When he gets to the middle, he says, "O people, gather around." And when he says, "O people, gather around," he says, then become silent. Listen. And then when you become silent, then listen. And then when you listen, act on what I say. And then he begins to continue. And he says several things. At that point in time, Rasulullah says, it's as if I hear him with my own ears saying to the people that anyone who is born will die. And anyone who dies will have to be raised and give account for what they did. And he continues and he says that Qais bin Sa'ida, although he lived many years ago, I have been told that this individual, and I am telling you, Rasulullah says, that this individual, people on the Day of Judgment will be raised with their tribes. They will be raised with their leader, their imam. But Qais bin Sa'ida on the Day of Judgment will be raised as an individual on his own. He is amongst the Muslims. You see, when we start the story of Islam, we must identify who are those people who were called Muslims by Rasulullah before Islam even. And one of those people who's mentioned by name is Qais bin Sa'ida, number one. Number two, and this is where things get quite interesting. Was there another individual who Rasulullah mentioned by name? Yes, he mentioned several people by name. One of them is the following individual. Allow me to explain. This also tells us how Medina, the city, was inhabited. Allow me to explain. Amongst the scholars, the ulama say that there were the people of Ahlul Kitab, the people of the book. As you know, the Zoroastrians, the Jews and the Christians. Amongst the Jews, our ulama and our historians say, there were people of sincerity who were actually looking at their scriptures and looking at the prophecies within the scriptures. When they were looking at the prophecies within the scriptures, they found within their prophecies that the final messenger will come to a particular location. They said, we must go to that location and live in that location. So they went to the scholars, the rabbis, and they said, let's look at the books and find out where is that location going to be. When they looked at the books, they said that that location is going to be between Ir and Uhud. Between Ir and Uhud. That's the location. They said, very well, where is this place? At that point in time, Uhud was known, but no one knew where Ir was. At that point in time, these tribes of the Jews, some of them, they said, we will go and find this location and we will inhabit it and live there and we will wait for that final messenger. And if he comes to this moment in time, then we will be saved and it will be a good moment. But if he does not come, we will allow our children to come and wait for him. By the way, you think this is very old. There are still people in this world who have certain prophecies, who live in certain parts of the world because they believe these prophecies will come to be true. As you know, and I mentioned to you before, many people from the Christian community, especially the evangelical Christian community in America today, they do what we would call ziyarat trips. You know, we go to Karbala, we go to, for example, Mashhad, we go to these places. They go to, for example, the Holy Lands, as they call them, in the Middle East. And they say that these are the places where Jesus will come. This is that location, this is that location. And some people have lived there. Nonetheless, we'll get that to another time. At that point in time, they said, we must find where is between Uhud and Ir. What is this location? And we will live there. So they make out the arrangements and they go. When they get to Mount Uhud, when they get there, they are assuming that the people will know at that point in time where is Ir. When they get there, the tribes and the Bedouins that were there already living, they said, Ir, we've never heard of this place. What are you talking about? They became a bit concerned that we've gone and we've left our home, we've left everything, and we've come to this place looking for the place between Ir and Uhud, and we've gotten to Uhud, but nobody knows where Ir is. So we don't know where to set up our homes. At that point in time, they were not getting any resolution. When they were not getting any resolution, they said, let's scatter and find our own places, we'll live in our own places, and whoever finds out where that place of Ir is, they will let the other tribes know. So they dispersed and they lived in 3 places. One is called Tima. The other is called Fadak. The other is called Khaybar. These 3 places. These Jewish tribes began to settle in these 3 locations. Tima, Fadak and Khaybar. And they lived there. After time passed, according to Allama Majlis and other scholars, after some time passed, the people of Tima settled in Tima and they said, we must go and visit our friends and our brethren and see what's going on, how are they living? It's been a long time and we haven't heard from them. Maybe they found that place, maybe they haven't, but let's at least converse with them and talk to them and see what they found or what they haven't found. So the people of the tribes of Tima, they said, very well, we'll go and contact the others. So at that time, for example, if you and I, we need an Uber or we need something to get from one place to the other, they were using at that time camels. That's how people got from place to another. So there was a camel man, a man who had a business where he would transport people. And they went to him and they said, can you get us to Khaybar? Can you get us to Fadak? We have friends there who we have not seen in a long time. Can you please get us to that location? At that point in time, he says, very well. This is the price. They say accept it and they're on the way. When they're about to go, he says, look, I am going to take you not the normal route and the normal route that everyone takes. I'm going to take a faster route, a route that is between Uhud and Ir. He said, what did you say? He said, I'm going to take you not the normal route. I'm going to take you between a new route that's a faster route that I found that is between Uhud and Ir. He says, Uhud and Ir, you know this place? He said, yes. He said, take us there right away. At that point in time, they go on their journey and they go through Ir and Uhud and Ir and they get to that middle point. At that point in time, the person who's account, because at that time, and in modern days as well, to stop after you have gotten people together, it's not easy. If you have a caravan, to let everyone out, let everyone on, it's a big process. Today, for example, if someone takes a big bus, when large buses have stops, it's a process. Imagine at that time, how much time it would take. So the camelman, he thinks that maybe they're going to stop here for a couple of minutes and then move on. And then they settle down, they take off all their things. He said, look, our goal and our destination is a long way from here. We're not there yet. Why are we stopping here in the middle? When they took off all their things, the people of Tima, the tribes, they said, look, we have no interest anymore in going towards Fadak or Khaybar. We have come for here because this is the place we were looking for all along. We only set up in Tima because we were looking for this place. We didn't want to go anywhere else. We just didn't know what was the point between Ir and Uhud. We found it, this is our home. At that point in time, he says, what? They gave him his money and he said, fine, fair enough. He went back his way. He got what he wanted But he was astonished. What type of people are these? They wanted to go somewhere else, they stopped on the way. I've never seen anything like this. They set up shop here because they were acting on the prophecies. At that point in time, when this happened, they then took out their pen and paper and they wrote letters to the people of Khaybar and the people of Fadak. They said, look, we came here many years ago looking for the place between Ir and Uhud. Today we found it. And we invite you to come because this is the reason why we came in the first place. Now you are in Fadak, now you are in Khaybar. That wasn't your goal. We found the place, come. When the letters reached Fadak and Khaybar, according to Majlis, they wrote back and they said, look, it's been a long time since we came. We've established our lives here. We've set up here. We're doing fine here. We're doing fine in Khaybar. We're doing fine in Fadak. We don't need to start our lives over again in a new place that's not been inhabited yet. It's a barren land. But they said, look, as soon as that messenger comes, you let us know right away. We'll be the first to come and assist. He said, very well. The tribe of Tima that settled there, right there in between Ir and Uhud, they began to use that land because it was very fertile in the desert, especially for the desert. They had fertile land and they began to build orchards there. When they began to build date orchards and the like, they began to become very wealthy and very affluent. When they became very wealthy and well established, they built their city and they even built a fort around it. And they became very well known as this very affluent tribe that was seemingly in the middle of nowhere, in a city which became known as Yathrib. At that point in time, when this happened and they inhabited this is what is Yathrib, away from Mecca. Now at the same time we come to Yemen. In Yemen there were a series of rulers. One of the rulers of Yemen during this time is a man by the name of Tuba. Tuba is ruling over Yemen and he knows about the Kaaba that's in Mecca, number one. And there was this animosity amongst the Yemenite rulers. Not all of them, but some of them. They always wanted to destroy the Kaaba because it was economics at that time. Why are people going to Mecca in the middle of nowhere and they're spending so much money and going for these pilgrimages and they're going to these idols? We want people to come to Yemen. So people wanted to destroy. You remember Abraha very well. But this Tuba also had the same desire to destroy the Kaaba, number one. Number two, one of his aides told him, and the news came to him, that there was this tribe seemingly in the middle of nowhere, in a place called Yathrib, that had a fort around them, and they were very wealthy. If you invade them and you take over their money and their wealth, you can take over a lot of wealth and become very wealthy. And it's a small town, you can probably crush them. At that point in time, he said, very well. You said, what is one place? One place is Mecca, where I already want to go. The other is Yathrib, which is not too far away. He said, it's like killing two birds with one stone. Let's go to Mecca and let's go to Yathrib. We'll go to both of them. We'll destroy the Kaaba and then we'll go to Yathrib and then we'll take over their money. By the way, it was the middle of nowhere at that time. They didn't have much else to do. If you read the history of Arabia, in fact, during the time in Hijaz, in Mecca and Medina, if you read, and we'll come to this in later weeks, they used to fight. One of the reasons scholars give as to why they used to fight was because life was so boring there. They had nothing else to do. And because they had nothing else to do, they used to fight. And history shows that this has happened numerous times in the history of Europe and other places as well. To add some spice to life, people would fight. Unfortunately, this still happens till this day in our world. Nonetheless, when you come to this moment in time, you find that at that point in time, he said, I'm going to go. He gets his whole people and they go. When they go towards Hijaz, when they go towards Mecca, and then ultimately they want to go to Yathrib after that, on the way, according to Allama Majlisi, they get very ill. No, Tuba himself gets very ill. When Tuba himself gets very ill, the ruler, the advisors and the wazirs who are there, they say, the reason as to why you may be feeling this illness is perhaps your ill intent. He said, ill intent? What do you mean? Your evil intent. What evil intent? Your intent to destroy the Kaaba. Although the Kaaba is not our house, it's the house of those people and for them it's sacred. Maybe this is the reason. If you change your intent, if you change your niyyah, maybe your health will get better. According to the narrations, he said, very well. I change my intent and I do not intend to destroy the Kaaba. Very well. A day, 2, 3 passed and his health began to become better. When his health began to become better, they said, look, it was that will and wish that you had to destroy the Kaaba. Now that you have done away with that, your health has gotten better. He says, very well, my health has gotten better. But look, we made this long journey from Yemen, and we're not too far away from Mecca, and we're not too far away from Yathrib. You can't spend all of this money, and then you come back to Yemen, and people will say, what did you do? You just wasted your time, and you wasted the money to go there. At that point in time, he said, what do we do? Okay, we won't go to Mecca, let's go towards Yathrib and take the money in the fort, and take over those people, come back with the loot. He said, very well. He said, they went towards Yathrib. When they went towards Yathrib, Yathrib was this town or this tribe of Jewish immigrants who had inhabited there, and they were very wealthy and very well off and very prosperous. At that point in time, the army of Tuba, they surrounded around the fort of Yathrib. And then they began to besiege them. They besieged them. When they besieged them, they said, look, at that point in time, they said, look, whether either you come out or we fight or we overtake you. It's one of these scenarios. You give us your wealth, you give us whatever you have. They laid in wait. They stayed inside in their fort. It was secure at that time. And they planned, the Jews of Yathrib. 1 day passed, 2 days passed, Tuba and his men are on the outside. When the Tuba and his men are on the outside, they're waiting that maybe they'll give up and they'll say, okay, look, there's too many people here, we can't fight you all, and they give up. And they, for example, say, okay. But 1 day passed, 2 days passed, this didn't happen. According to the narrations, there were the poor around the city of Yathrib who knew that the people of Yathrib were very charitable. Remember this word. There were people who knew that the Jews of Yathrib were very charitable people who were good-hearted people. And they came. Now, look, Tuba's army from Yemen is watching this whole scene. They still had integrity at that time. They said, who are these average people? They have nothing to do with the people of Yathrib. They don't have anything to do with us. Who are they? They said, these are the miskin, these are the poor people who are of surrounding. They are Bedouins, they don't live with anyone. And they used to come to the people of Yathrib and say, can you give us some charity? Remember, the word for goodness, also a form of charity in Hebrew, is zadaqah, or very similar to sadaqah in Arabic. At that point in time, the army of Tuba is looking at this scene, and they begin to see that the people there are taking their dates and they are flicking them over the fence of the fort to the poor. Tuba said, what is going on here? These people are besieged. Their lives are on the line. They're about to die if we ambush and attack them. And they are still willing to give charity in this state? His heart changed. What kind of people are these? By the way, if you go to, it's so interesting when you study the different religions. When you ask, for example, in Judaism, or even in Christianity and many other religions, especially the Abrahamic religions, whenever someone is having a financial difficulty, the first thing the rabbis in Judaism say is give sadaqah, maybe 10% or something like this. When it comes to Islam, one of the first things that the ulama say, based on the teachings of Rasulullah and the Imams, we have narrations that say that if you are in a difficult spot, a man came to the Imam, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I don't have money to eat. He says, when you get back to town, when you get back home, feed 5 people. So Ya Rasulullah, I don't have money to eat, you're telling me to feed 5 people. He said, even if you have to sell the pillow you sleep on, feed 5 people. It's a counterintuitive mechanism. But the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, if you want to get in your life, you have to give. We all sometimes don't understand this wisdom. Nonetheless, Tuba's watching this scene. He's like, hold on. These people are about to die, and they still have the rights of the poor in their mind. How? At that point in time, according to the narrations, he said, Tuba says, ceasefire. Hold on. Okay. Truce. We're not fighting you here right now. And they honored this. This was honor that existed at that time. Said, look, I want to speak to your chieftains. I want to speak to your leaders. Now there's 2 narrations here that I want to make clear. One narration is this, that Tuba had actually attacked. His army did a small attack and they killed roughly 60 to 70 people. And then this happened. Another narration says, no, there was no attack, then this event happened. Then both of them get connected. What happened? He went and he wanted to meet the leaders of the Yathrib tribes. They came with the leaders and they came with the chief rabbi, the elder. At that point he said, what did I just see? Why is it that under this circumstance you seem to be calm? You seem to even be giving charity while I am here to overtake you. The chief rabbi looked at him and said, look, we know from our scriptures, we know from our books, that this is the land where the final messenger will come. You can do whatever you want to us, but we know that you ultimately will not overtake this land and you will not be the ruler here finally. That messenger will be. So we have calmness, we have coolness, we don't worry. Tuba saw this. He saw these things in front of his eyes. Look, they're calm, collected, number one. Number two, they're giving charity in this state, number two. And number three, on top of that, look at this honesty and sincerity that they're willing to abide by these principles. He said, very well, look, I'm the ruler here. I've come all the way from Yemen. I need to go back to Yemen. I can't stay here because I rule there. However, your principles seem noteworthy to me. He says, I'm leaving behind two tribes here. Remember these names. Aus and Khazraj. It will come up again. I'm leaving these two tribes from amongst my army. There are two tribes here, members here. Aus and Khazraj, I'm leaving there as representatives. When that prophet comes, they will join the army. And I'm leaving a letter. He took a pen and paper and he wrote a letter. He said, I am Tuba, the ruler of Yemen, and I bear witness that that final messenger, that I brought Iman on his belief system that he brought. And I'm leaving this here. And he left that letter to be given to Rasulullah whenever he emerges. Now time passed in Yathrib. As time progressed, Aus and Khazraj, these were two originally Yemeni tribes that were now stationed there. As time progressed, and it happened so often in history, they came as guests, and over time, the people of Aus and Khazraj, they became more in number and in power. They eventually overtook the wealth, the land, the property, and the position of the people of Yathrib. And they took over that town. When they took over the town at that point in time, the original Jews of Yathrib said, look, O guests of Aus and Khazraj, you came from Yemen, and we gave you a place to stay with us, and you took over our own city from us. But know this, that final messenger will come one day, and when that final messenger comes, he will not let you be the way you are. He will take revenge for what you have done to us, because he's a man of justice, he's a man of principle. At that point in time, they began to think perhaps maybe there is some weight to what they're saying. Now, all of this happened. Many years later, after Rasulullah came, a man comes to him in Medina. Yathrib was the original name of what we now call Medina. At that point in time, when he comes at that point in time, he says, what tribe are you from? They mentioned the name of the tribe. He said, where is Abu Layla? At that point in time, he said, this is the man Abu Layla. Rasul says, come here. He said, where is that letter from the king of Tuba of Yemen? Where is it? He said, how do you know about it? I've been carrying this letter generation after generation after generation. It's been being passed down to me by my father and his grandfather and so on and so forth. He said, yes. He says, I'm the last messenger of God. I'm the final messenger. And God has sent me. And I know, because this individual, the king of Yemen, that is by the name of Tuba, he is one of those individuals who is a Muslim before Islam. Qais and these two individuals. Those are the two individuals. We'll leave that here for tonight, inshallah, and next time we'll continue. The answer to the question is, yes, there were Muslims before Islam. Ibrahim alayhi salam is the first one who was used, the term Muslim was used for. But the religion has been coming from one time, since the time of Adam alayhi salam. That means that today even, there may be people who the message may not have gotten to. Even our scholars say, there may be people who are in taqiyya, we don't even know they are actually believers. We may not know. It's a complex thing. We sometimes miss these points. Nonetheless, we'll continue another time. We'll go to Masaib tonight, inshallah. It's the Shabbir Jumada, it is Thursday night. It is a time to remember our marhumeen. It is a time to remember the Ahlul Bayt, and it is through their sorrows and their difficulties that we are able to carry on. Who do you remember and who do you commemorate? There's a personality that Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, according to the narrations, he prayed for his existence to help on the day of Karbala, on the day of Ashura in Karbala. That is Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen. At that point in time, the narrations say that Imam Ali prayed for a son to help Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. When he did this dua, when he did this prayer, according to the narrations, he was given a son. He was given 4 sons with al-Baneen, as you know. At that point in time when he gets Abbas, Abbas had one wish and one desire his whole life, and that is to defend Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam on the plains of Karbala. And he was preparing for that. Even when he was in Siffin, even when he was courageous and showed his bravery in Siffin and other battles throughout Islam, he knew his destiny was ultimately Karbala. But what test Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Abbas? The one, sometimes you're able to do something. You're able to actually accomplish something. But then you are tested by holding back. Abbas, if you're named after Abbas, it's not a small thing, it's a big thing. The narrations say that when Hur, he put his hand on the horse of Imam al-Hussein at that point in time and tried to stop Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam when they first got to Karbala. Imam al-Hussein looked back at Hur and he said, "Thaqalat ummuka." May your mother mourn you, may your mother weep for you, as if he was saying, may you die. This is what the Arabs say. May you die, what have you done? And Hur looks back, he says, if your mother was anyone else, I would have responded the same way. Some narrations say Abu al-Fadl Abbas heard this. He said, what did you say about the mother of Hussein? Her name, your mouth? I'll finish you here. Imam Hussein stopped him. Number 1. Number 2, on the 4th of Muharram, some say the 3rd, the 4th of Muharram, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, there's a moment where Abu al-Fadl Abbas draws a line in the sand. Because they said, look, move your tents away from the water. Remember, just a few days ago, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is giving all of them water, because he's controlling the water. But now they want to control the water. They say, move your tents away from the water. Abu al-Fadl Abbas draws a line in the sand. He says, anyone moves over this line, I will make a bloodbath. I will make rivers of blood flow. I dare you. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam says to Sayyidah Zainab, because Abbas comes from Abasa. The narrations say Abbas had a look that he could freeze the enemy with. At that point in time, Imam al-Hussein says, Zainab, this is not the time to fight. Tell Abbas to move the tents. The narrations say that Bibi Zainab says to Fidda, Fidda, call Abbas to me. Bibi Fidda goes to Abbas and says, Abbas, Zainab is calling you. He says, one moment, I'll just finish off this enemy and push them back and then I'll come. She goes back and says, Abbas says this. Zainab says, call him now. Fidda goes, says, Abbas, she's calling you now. Abbas puts it down, he goes. Says, my princess, Zainab, you called me. I said, yes. Can you please move the tents? For someone like Abbas, who knows that he can finish the army, to go back and actually do that and move the tents, what the enemy had asked for, to do that was very difficult for someone like Abbas. That was the test of Abbas, number 2. Number 3, the night before Ashura, Abbas is ready to fight. But Imam al-Hussein says, Abbas, go and ask them, tell them one more night. Abbas is waiting his whole life for the day to fight. Imam Hussein says, just ask for one more night. For the person like Abbas, the beacon head of bravery, to ask the enemy to give one more night is a very big test. The same Abbas, on the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein doesn't give him the permission to fight. I'm concluding here very quickly. He doesn't give him the permission to fight. Abbas is seeing one after the other go towards the battlefield. Up until one moment in time happens. Azadaro, ek marhala ye aaya कि अब्बास देख रहे हैं कि हर कोई जा रहा है. एक मरहला ये आता है कि इमाम हुसैन के पास आते हैं, कहते हैं ए सैयद शुहदा, ए अबा अब्दुल्ला, एक गुजारिश है, एक दरख्वास्त है कि मैं जा सकूं और आपकी दिफा कर सकूं, आपके लिए लड़ सकूं. इमाम हुसैन ने कहा कि ए अब्बास, तुम मेरे लश्कर के अलमदार हो. जब ये सुना, अब्बास ने कहा, सैयद शुहदा, ए अबा अब्दुल्ला, अब वो लश्कर कहाँ रहा? कहाँ है सईद? कहाँ है जुहैर? कहाँ है अली अकबर? कहाँ है कासिम? कहाँ है सब? अब वो लश्कर कहाँ रहा? अज़ादारों, सब छोड़ रहा हूँ. बस एक मरहला ये आया कि एक छोटी सी बच्ची थी जिसका नाम सकीना था, एक कूजा था का प्यास. अब्बास ने कूजा लिया, कहा ए सैयद शुहदा, कहा है अबा अब्दुल्ला अगर लड़ने की इजाजत नहीं दे रहे तो कम से कम पानी की इजाजत दे दीजिए। इमाम ने कहा अब्बास पानी की इजाजत है। हजरत अब्बास गए, पूरा मंजर आपके सामने है, बस एक रिवायत और जहमत तमाम। जब शहादत अब्बास हो गई, कई दिन गुजर गए, कई साल गुजर गए। 300 बरस पहले, 300 साल पहले, अभी 1700 की बात है, आयतुल्लाह सैयद महदी बहरुल उलूम, सैयद महदी बहरुल उलूम आखिरी जुमले जियारत के लिए गए। नीचे हजरत अब्बास की जरी के नीचे और कुछ अजादार और कुछ जायरीन के साथ गए। जब पहुंचे वहां तो आगा ने कहा कि ये अब्बास की लहद है, ये अब्बास का मरकद है। जब आजादारों ने देखा, जब जायरीन ने देखा, उन्होंने कहा कि आगा यही जरिए अब्बास है, यही मरकद अब्बास है। ने कहा यही है। उन्होंने कहा आगा हमने तो सुना था कि अब्बास बहुत कदावर थे, हमने सुना था कि जब अब्बास घोड़े पे होते थे तो उनके पैर जमीन तक आते थे, ये कब्र इतनी छोटी क्यों है? आगा पीटने लगे, मातम करने लगे। कहा अब्बास बहुत कदावर थे, अब्बास बहुत टोल थे, मगर जालिमों ने अब्बास को इतने टुकड़ों में किया, टुकड़े टुकड़े कर दिया। यही रहता है जो अब्बास है। अला लानतुल्लाहि अलल कौम ज़ालिमीन व सयअलमुल लज़ीना ज़लमू अय्य मुनक़लिबिन यन्क़लिबून इन्ना लिल्लाहि wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ya Allah, we ask you to bless this holy gathering. Ya Allah, we ask you to alleviate the suffering of anyone who's ill. Ya Allah, some of our beloved members of our community, they have undergone surgery or will be going through medical procedures. Ya Allah, grant them shifa as soon as possible. Ya Allah, anyone who is suffering financially or any other difficulty, Ya Allah, alleviate their suffering. Ya Allah, bless the marhumeen who are being commemorated tonight, and all of your marhumeen. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of Imam Sahib al-Aswad Zaman and allow us to be amongst his companions when he returns. A final request to please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for the marhumeen of the Ja'far family, as well as for your marhumeen and for all those who do not have someone to recite a Fatiha for them. Surah Al-Mubarak Al-Fatiha ma'as salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
توجه زيارة.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله، السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله، السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى، السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين، فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها، ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها، وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين، وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي، وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا، وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبيا بكم موقن بشراع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه، السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداءه، السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصح، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله بأبي أنتم وأمي. طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوطهم على الإسلام. أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر، والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل، وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا تسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا سيدي ومولاي صاحب العصر والزمان، سيدي الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان، السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.